Speaker.
Almighty God, we give thanks to you, the creator of the universe, and humbly beseech you to direct and prosper the deliberations of the members of this house here assembled for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Grant that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen, Amen, Namaste.
Oath or affirmation, announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, the following members have been asked to be excused from today's sitting of the House. Ms. Nicole Oliver, MP, member for Labrie. Ms. Marlene MacDonald, MP, member for Port of Spain South. Honorable Sherianne Critchlow Coburn, MP, member for Lupino, Bonaire West. Mr. Barry Padarath, MP, member for Princestown. And Honorable Maxi Coffey, MP, member for La Horquetta Talparo. The leave which the members seek is granted.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers.
The Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. The audited financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance Company Limited for the year ended December 31st, 2016. The audited financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Free Zones Company Limited for the financial year ended December 31st, 2016. The audited financial statements of Community Improvement Services Limited for the financial years ended September 30th, 2013 and 2014. That would have been papers 1 to 4. 5 to 6, the consolidated financial statements of Evolving Technologies and Enterprise Development Company Limited for the financial years ended September 30th, 2015, 2016. 7 to 8, the audited financial statements of Caribbean New Media Group Limited for the years ended December 31st, 2015 and 2016. The annual report and audited financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission for the year ended September 30th, 2016. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Miaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation Chairman's Fund for the year ended September 30th, 2012. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the National Institute of the Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology for the year ended December 31st, 2009. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago for the year ended September 30th, 2009. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Mayor's Fund of the San Fernando City Corporation for the year ended September 30th, 2015. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Chaguanas Borough Corporation for the year ended September 30th, 2011. 15 to 17. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Fair Trading Commission for the 3-month period ended September 30th, 2014, and for the years ended September 30th, 2015 and 2016. 18 to 21. The second reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the North Central Regional Health Authority for the 14-month period ended September 30th, 2005, and for the years ended September 30th, 2006, 2007, and 2008, 22 to 23, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation for the years ended September 30th, 2010 and 2011, 24 to 25, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Princestown Regional Corporation for the years ended September 30th, 2009 and 2010, 26 to 27, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Miaro Civic Center for the years ended September 30th, 2013 and 2014. 28, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the College of Science, Technology and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago for the year ended September 30th, 2006. 29 to 30, the report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Southwest Regional Health Authority for the years ended September 30th, 2008 and 2009. 31, the annual report of Taurus Services Limited for the financial year ended September 30, 2016. And finally,
No, one more. 89 to do. Supplemental order, people.
yeah, okay. The ministerial response of the Ministry of Finance to the sixth report of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee of the examination of the audited accounts, balance sheet, and other financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Solid Waste Management Company for the years 2008 to 2013, and the ministerial response of the Ministry of Finance to the ninth report of the Public Accounts Committee on the examination of the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for the financial years 2014 and 2015, with specific reference to the Ministry of Health. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that papers 1 to 8 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, and papers 9 to 30 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee.
And 89. And 89.
Honorable members, the question is that papers 1 to 8 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, and papers 9 to 30 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee. All in favor say aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome back all my colleagues from their vacation, and I have the honor to lay the following papers. 33 and 60, the ministerial responses to the fifth report of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee on the examination of the audited accounts, balance sheet, and other financial statements of the Point Lisas Industrial Port Development Corporation Limited for the years 2008 to 2015. These responses are from the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Works and Transport. 46, 68, and 75. The responses to the fourth report of the Joint Select Committee on Human Rights, Equality, and Diversity into the systems in place to protect children from abuse. These responses, Madam Speaker, are from the Office of the Prime Minister, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and the Ministry of Education. Papers 48, 49, 89, and 91. The responses to the ninth report of the Public Accounts Committee on the examination of the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for the financial years 2014 and 2015, with specific reference to the Ministry of Health. These responses, Madam Speaker, are from the Personnel Department, the Service Commissions Department, and the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Public Administration and Communications. Papers 54, 70, 79, 83, and 84. The ministerial responses to the first report of the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure on an inquiry into land tenure issues in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, these responses are from the Ministries of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, the Ministries of Tourism and Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Papers 55, 74, and 86. The ministerial responses to the first report of the Joint Select Committee on Foreign Affairs on the public examination of the draft summary of the recommendations and conclusions of the 41st meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development. These responses are from the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Papers 65 and 69, which are the responses to the first report of the Joint Select Committee on National Security on the follow-up inquiry into the status of the investigation of the Police Complaints Authority and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service into the events surrounding the Day of Total Policing on March 23, 2015. Madam Speaker, these responses are from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. Papers 32, 37 to 41, 43 to 45, 47, 50, 51, 53, 57, 59, 63, 67, 71, 72, 80 to 82, 85, and 87. These are the responses to the third report of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee on an examination of the system of inventory control within the public service. These responses, Madam Speaker, are from the following: the Auditor General's Department, the Public Service Appeal Board, the Integrity Commission, the Elections and Boundaries Commission, the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, the Ministry of Planning and Development, the Ministry of Labor and Small Enterprise Development, the Central Administrative Services, Tobago, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Personnel Department, the Service Commissions Department, the Ministry of Public Administration and Communications, the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, the Ministries of Social Development and Family Services, Works and Transport, Community Development, Culture and the Arts, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, the Equal Opportunity Tribunal, the Ministries of Rural Development and Local Government, Public Utilities, Sport and Youth Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Deputy Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers on the table. Paper number 35, the 39th Annual Report of the Ombudsman for the period January to December 2016. Paper number 36, the response of the Office of the President to the second report to the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee on an examination of the current expenditure and internal controls within the public service. Paper number 88, the delegation report of the 43rd meeting of the Board of Governors and the 9th gathering of women parliamentarians of Parlaméricas held in Buenos Aires, Argentina from May 22nd to 24th, 2017. Thank you.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay paper number 52, the Annual Administrative Report of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago for the period October 2015 to September 2016. Shall I continue? Thank you, ma'am. Paper number 56, the ministerial response of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries to the 7th report of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee on the examination of the audited accounts, balance sheet, and other financial statements of the Estate Management and Business Development Company Limited for the financial years 2008 to 2010. Paper number 58, the annual administrative report of the former Ministry of the People and Social Development for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2012. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. The annual administrative report of the former Ministry of Community Development for fiscal 2011-2012. The annual administrative report of the former Ministry of the Arts and Multiculturalism for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2015.
Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. For the ministerial response of the Ministry of National Security, the second report of the Joint Select Committee on National Security on the inquiry into the practice whereby prisoners are granted access to services outside of the prison facilities. Number 66, the response of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to the third report of the Joint Select Committee on the National Security on an inquiry into the operations of the Trinidad and Tobago Forensic Science Center and the issue of DNA sampling in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
The Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay paper number 73, the ministerial response of the Ministry of Health to the second report of the Joint Select Committee on Finance and Legal Affairs into the inquiry into food fraud in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
The Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the ministerial report of the Ministry of Education to the 7th report of the Public Accounts Committee on the examination of the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for the financial years 2014 and 2015 with specific reference to the Ministry of Education.
The Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. Papers 77 and 78, the annual administrative reports of the Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises Limited for the periods October 1st, 2011 to September 30th, 2012, and October 1st, 2014 to September 30th, 2015. Also, paper number 90, the ministerial response of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government to the third report of the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration on an examination of existing arrangements and possible options for regulating geriatric care facilities, old age homes. Madam Speaker, I crave your indulgence to indicate that I would like to commend the ministers and other members of this side of the House who ensured that all these reports were ready for laying in the Parliament at this time, and I think it is something that is highly commendable, and I would like to take the opportunity to commend my colleagues as leader of government business. Thank you very kindly, Madam.
Reports from committees.
Member for Caroni East.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present the following report. The 8th report of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, second session of the 11th Parliament, on the examination of the audited accounts, balance sheet, and other financial statements of the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited for the financial years 2009 to 2015.
Member for Dabadi Umera.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present the following report. The third report on the Joint Select Committee on social services and public administration, on the examination of existing arrangements, possible options for regulating geriatric care facilities, old age homes in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present the following report. The fourth report of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions and Statutory Authorities, including the Tobago House of Assembly, on an inquiry into the regulation and licensing of medical doctors by the Medical Board of Trinidad and Tobago.
Member for Couva North. May I apologize? I think this should be the Minister of Finance.
In my capacity as the member for Diego Martin Northeast, I have the honor to present the following report. The report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Insurance Bill 2016. Wait, is he, what you say?
Prime Minister's questions, urgent questions.
Honorable members, before we embark on urgent questions, I just wish to take this opportunity to draw to your attention the presence in the chamber of the cohort of youth who will form the 15th National Youth Parliament, which will be held on October 20th, 2015. Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of National Security, in light of the resignation of forensic pathologist Dr. Valerie Alexandrov, can the Minister indicate what arrangements have been or will be put in place to treat with autopsies in a timely manner at the Trinidad and Tobago Forensic Science Center?
Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me the opportunity just to welcome the students, and we hope and you all will get certain inspiration from this side and hopefully the other side of the floor as to how we behave during today's sitting. Madam Speaker, to answer the question today, up to today, Friday, September the 8th, 2017, there are 2 pathologists performing postmortems at the Forensic Science Center. The resignation of Dr. Valerie Alexandrov is actually effective on the 31st of December, 2013, which is some months away still. He has 2017. He has asked not to be scheduled to do any more postmortem examinations. In the interim, we have Dr. Devine's continuing postmortem examinations, and arrangements have been put in place for Dr. Boris to be brought back onto the payroll from October 1st, 2017. And before coming here, I inquired, and Dr. Boris is making herself available in the interim period to assist and to ensure that there is continuity in these examinations being done.
Speaker, and thank you for that response, Minister. Will the Minister give consideration to having the Forensic Science Center open and functioning on weekends, that is Saturday and Sundays, to ease the burden that normally awaits citizens on a Monday morning because the center is closed on weekends?
Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, that is something that can be brought to their attention. As you've just heard, we are looking to upgrade the resources there, etc. And that is something I'm sure can be given consideration. But until those who are performing these duties and the services that support them are analyzed and assessed, I can't make any
Speaker, Honourable Minister Dr. Alexandrov, via public medium, indicated this morning that if a forensic pathologist performs more than 250 autopsies annually, then his evidence in court is regarded as not reliable. Can you, in these circumstances, indicate, based on the fact that 500 autopsies were performed by Dr. Alexandrov last year, whether his evidence will be reliable in the courts of Trinidad and Tobago?
I would not allow that as a supplemental question. Member for Caroni East.
Would the honourable member indicate, subsequent to the resignation in December of the forensic pathologist, how would it affect the cases that he has done the autopsy on in the criminal courts, how would that affect the conduct of the testimony from him in the criminal courts?
Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much. Dr. Alexandrov would be expected to come back if his evidence is required in courts. As you would be aware, there would be proper medical reports, proper reports of all of the autopsies, postmortems that he's performed that would be admissible in court in any event, but I'm certain that arrangements would have been made for that possibility, or in fact, eventuality. Someone stopping being in their position does not negate them going from court. For example, former ministers may have to go to court to give evidence in the future as well.
Member for Oropuch West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of National Security.
Low conduct.
Thank you for opening the door.
Yeah.
Could the Minister
Members. Member for Oropuch West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of National Security. Could the Minister state what recent action has been taken to deal with the use of electronic devices by inmates, detainees, by the prison authorities, given recent social media postings showing that this is still prevalent?
Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You would recall on the last occasion that we were debating in Parliament, I had informed the national population that grabbers and jammers were actually procured during the past administration's time in office. Those are being integrated. There were problems with the electronic system, the electricity system that are being dealt with. There have also been enhanced CCTV camera systems and other electronic mechanisms put in place to deal specifically with that ill.
Member for Oropuch West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs. Could the Minister state what steps will be taken to treat with complaints of poor parking and lighting at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy?
Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs, I want to again welcome the young people that are here in the gallery with us. And I would also like to congratulate our Trinbago Knight Riders for making it to the final on Saturday at this spanking new Brian Lara Academy. I also want to thank the members on the other side. I saw a number of them enjoying the game yesterday, and I'm glad that you came to enjoy it with their constituents. In fact, Madam Speaker, a number of their constituents,
Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A number of the constituents were very happy and thanked me publicly. A number of the supporters, they were very pleased and happy that we finally completed the project that the people of the South and Central could come and enjoy cricket. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, to answer the question from Oropuch West, which is a kind of weird question to answer, I didn't hear any complaints of poor parking or lighting. But nevertheless, Madam Speaker, the original design of the Brian Lara Cricket Academy was 1,600 spots, parking spots, which far surpasses any of the other stadia that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. And what we did since the opening, we doubled it to over 3,000 spots, Madam Speaker, which is above industry standard with regards to parking, 15,000. In terms of the second part of the question, Madam Speaker, I'm not too clear what the member of Oropuch West means in terms of lighting. Is it the lighting inside the stadium or is it in the car park? But I'll answer both. The inside of the stadium itself is industry standard and above in terms.
Minister, the speaking time is now expired.
All right.
Members, I recognize we've just come back from recess, but please be reminded that we are in the chamber and a certain decorum is expected. Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question 4 to the Minister of Finance. Could the Minister indicate what form of relief will be provided to CARICOM countries affected by the recent hurricane?
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, the CARICOM country that has been affected by Hurricane Irma, and the way the question is phrased, it speaks to the recent hurricane. There's also Hurricane Jose, which is very close to the northern Leeward Islands. But the CARICOM country that has been most affected by Hurricane Irma is Antigua and Barbuda, with most of the damage done on the island of Barbuda, which we were advised has been devastated. Although Trinidad and Tobago has its own financial problems, there was a National Helicopter Services Company helicopter in the general area. In fact, this helicopter was in Dominica doing a private mission, and the government took a decision to make available, based on a request from the government of Antigua and Barbuda, to make this helicopter available to the government of Antigua and Barbuda, specifically to assist with the relief effort to the island of Barbuda, which has now had to be evacuated because of Hurricane Jose for a period of 1 week. So that is the direct assistance that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has given so far to that particular CARICOM country. We've also received requests for donations of supplies, water, tarpaulins, foodstuffs, and so on. And the Ministry of National Security, together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, the ODPM, are currently assessing the situation to see what can be done to assist in sending relief supplies to the country, to Antigua and Barbuda. We have no reports of damage to St. Kitts and Nevis or to any of the other CARICOM territories at this point in time.
Member for Caroni Central. Supplemental.
Yes. Minister of Finance, does the Minister of Finance or the government see the prospect of any opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago becoming involved in any kind of reconstruction effort?
Minister of Finance.
The difficulty, Madam Speaker, is we don't have the money we used to have. If oil was $150 a barrel, of course, we could assist to a much greater extent. It's coincidental that in a discussion with the Minister of Trade from Antigua this morning, they indicated to me that they will have to completely rebuild all of the structures on the island of Barbuda, and they have asked us to assist with building materials and so on in the first instance. This matter is in its embryonic stage. And of course, you have the problem, as the Minister told me this morning, that Hurricane Jose is on a direct path to hit them again, and is expected to hit them tomorrow. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's an evolving situation before we could give any commitment to any significant reconstruction effort on the part of Trinidad and Tobago to this CARICOM country.
Member for Oropuchis.
To the acting Prime Minister, if you can just clarify, you said that a helicopter from Trinidad, Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force or Air Guard was on a private mission in Dominica. What private mission they could be on?
Let me be crystal clear as I was before. The National Helicopter Services Company, a state enterprise which has both private and public customers, was on a private mission working, I believe, for a regional telecommunications company in that particular area. And as a result, one of their rotary aircraft was in Dominica, coincidentally and fortuitously, at the time
that we got the request for assistance from the government of Antigua. Antigua is just an hour and a half away from Dominica, so it was a good fortune for all concerned that this aircraft was there. It was going to return to Trinidad, so it was able to reroute and go towards Antigua. I hope that answers your question.
Member for Vancouver South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Marine Resources, could the Minister inform this House why employees of the National Reforestation Program have not been paid their wages for more than 5 fortnights, and indicate when all outstanding sums of monies will be fully satisfied to the thousands of workers who have been affected?
Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries.
Madam Speaker, I thank the member for this question because this particular program impacts the constituents of all the members of this House. The delay in the payment of the wages was due to a shortfall in the funding to the program. That matter has been resolved, and we expect that all outstanding amounts and the wages due up to 30th September 2017 to be paid out before the end of this financial year. Thank you.
Member for Vancouver North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, could the Minister inform this House when the Miscellaneous Provisions Marriage Act 2017 will be proclaimed to provide the protection to the nation's children that is offered by the Act?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. We are formalising right now arrangements at the Registrar General's Division so that the forms which are meant to accompany the legislation are ready for delivery and availability to the public. And I expect to be able to take a note to Cabinet by Thursday of this week to invite for the proclamation date to be set by the Cabinet.
Member for Vancouver North.
Honourable AG, don't you think that this process took a little bit too long considering your haste to pass this bill earlier in the year?
I do consider that 26 years of discussion on the abolition of child marriages deserve some haste. So I make no apology for protecting the children of Trinidad and Tobago for their rights. I do, however, believe that operationalization is a critical factor. And so I make no apology whatsoever for taking care and caution with the forms, lest we run into a difficulty, for instance, the last government that proclaimed law for the Proceeds of Crime Act did not ensure that the forms were ready, and then had the Attorney General, now in private practice, sue the state for the lack of availability of forms, resulting in the payment of damages by the people of this country in a hasty environment
Attorney General,
where they would not...
Members, I wish to advise you all of the provisions of Standing Order 53. I also wish to advise that the time limit for urgent questions is now spent.
Questions on notice, questions for oral answer.
And members, before we proceed, I've been advised in writing by the member for Vancouver North, who's asked the question that question number 184 is now withdrawn. Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. I'm so sorry that question number 184 is withdrawn, seeing that we were quite prepared to answer it. But, Madam Speaker, we are asking that of the I think it's over 20 questions that were asked, that questions number 195 and 202 be deferred for 2 weeks. And I would also like to indicate that all the questions that are for written answer are ready and will be distributed at today's sitting. So we will answer all questions, save those two, and now 184 that 20 questions, we're all ready.
Member for Vancouver North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 185 to the Minister of Public Utilities.
Utilities.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this question. On behalf of the Minister of Public Utilities, I would like to indicate the current one. I would like to indicate that the lights have all been installed, and this was completed on August 28th, 2017. And the commissioning, because, Madam Speaker, we do have to ensure that all the lights are working and that there are no glitches. The commissioning will take place on or before the 15th of October, 2017. I'm sure you're happy.
Well done, well done.
For North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 186 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Pure Unit of the Ministry of Works and Transport is in collaboration with the Traffic Management Branch to conduct the necessary traffic studies and to prepare preliminary designs to alleviate traffic in the Chaguanas Borough. These studies will examine the short, medium, and long-term measures for congestion relief throughout the borough, from the Monroe Interchange in the north to the Honda River in the south, and from the Southern Main Road to Londonville Old Road, and in the east from Perseverance Road to Pier Road. Due to increased business, commercial, and housing development in the borough, the study will also investigate the feasibility and impact of the proposed plan on the entire traffic network in an effort to increase connectivity and alleviate traffic throughout Chaguanas. These traffic studies are scheduled to commence in early October 2017, which is after the start of the new school term, in order to capture data on regular traffic, and are expected to become completed by December 2017. The process will entail mapping the existing road network and studying the impact of increasing upgrades or rehabilitating the major roadways and an interchange located or proposed within the borough. Upon completion of the traffic study, the final designs on the suggested short, medium, and long-term measures will commence for phased implementation by the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Thank you.
Member for Tabakit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Minister, while you do your long-term study, are you aware that at this point in time, no parking zones are completely ignored by people who are just parking anywhere, and that vendors have taken over not just the main road, but Ramsaran Street, continuously blocking traffic at hours, and there's no response from the Chaguanas police?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not want to answer any question pertaining to national security. I prefer leave that for the Minister of National Security. Thank you.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, you know that in the budget speech of 2015-2016 and the 2016-2017 budget speeches, there were measures pronounced in the budget to alleviate the problem of traffic in Chaguanas, but yet nothing has been done for that over that 2-year period.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Madam Speaker, I don't know if you could engineer to alleviate traffic. I know what has been done is measures have been taken to sort of assist with the traffic congestions, and we do have projects going on in Chaguanas now that should be completed within the next, I would say, the next month or two, which will bring some more relief to the burgesses of Chaguanas.
Member for Urupuch West.
Speaker. Question number 189 to the Minister of Finance.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The National Insurance Board of Trinidad and Tobago held a number of consultations on the national insurance system in 2016. Particularly during the period January 2016 to April 2016, the board engaged in several stakeholder sessions on the 9th actuarial review with representatives of government departments and ministries,
the labor movement, and the business community. The board also participated in media interviews and media consultations on national insurance system reform in September 2016. Additionally, 2 joint seminars were held in September 2016 and May 2017 with the Equal Opportunities Commission, entitled Equal Opportunity and Non-Discrimination in National Budgeting, and with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, entitled Pension Reform, respectively. I am further advised that the National Insurance Board held reform sensitization sessions with representatives of the business community and the labor movement over the period July to August 2017.
Member for Oropouche West supplemental.
Yes, please. Minister, the second part of the question dealt with the prevention, to prevent the depletion of the resources. Can you elaborate on that? Because I don't think your question,
Minister
the
of
response
Finance.
answer.
Madam Speaker, the question asked whether consultations have been initiated to implement structural changes in order to prevent the depletion. I gave details of the consultations which were intended to deal with that issue.
So,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In these discussions, could the Minister of Finance indicate if the government placed any policy position as it relates to cutting pensions in the different classes under the national insurance system?
No. No.
Member for Oropouche West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 190 to the Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs.
To Youth Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Don't know where the member for Oropouche West is getting her information with regards to the utilization of the facilities, but I'll let her know and let the public know that this year has been the most international sporting events that Trinidad and Tobago has ever hosted in its history. Ever. And I've been told by the sport company of Trinidad and Tobago that it's also the highest level of international sporting activity that we have ever hosted. In almost all of our facilities has been used to the max. All our national stage, our youth facilities finally have programs in it. Our sporting facilities we are utilizing with the schools, working very closely with the communities. And again, Madam Speaker, in terms of us trying to enhance or improve on this, we will continue to work hard to ensure that our facilities are maximized and used to the fullest capacity for the young people of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Keith supplemental.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Minister, is it overutilization that led to the decision to lock out people from the Atobolan Stadium?
Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs.
Madam Speaker, this situation is unfortunate. I'm really sad that it has happened. But I think our chairman of the sport company answered it very clearly in the media with regards to the safety of the people of Couva South. As we have been seeing, the security at the facility has complained that we're not sure if it's the people who are walking, but a number of people have been going into the swimming pools after they walk and going in without permission. And we can't have any young people. And the worst thing to have any persons like that drowning, it'll be a different debate that we've been having here, Madam Speaker. So for the safety of the people of Couva South, let's continue how we're going.
Member for Couva South.
Madam Speaker, I take offense and umbrage to the remarks of the members of...
Member, I'm on my legs.
Question.
Is it good? Again, I caution. I realize we've had a break, but please let's remember where we are. Member for Couva South, please ask a question.
Madam Speaker, based on the pronouncements of the Minister of Sport, could he provide this House with any documentary evidence that the facilities out at the Atobolan Stadium have been vandalized by the constituents of Couva South.
Madam Speaker.
Member for Couva South, I won't allow that as a supplemental question. Member for Caroni Central.
Minister of Sport, some of the constituents affected are also from Caroni Central. Isn't it possible to arrange a meeting? I do not mean that you have to meet with them, with the residents who are using that, and come to some understanding and some structured arrangement so that the facilities can be used.
Sport and Youth Affairs.
Madam Speaker, for the member for Couva South, the only reason I mention Couva South is because it's in his constituency. I'm very well aware that a number of other constituents from different constituencies utilize the facility. Again, the chairman of the sport company, again, is in charge, the sport company is in charge of these facilities. And you will know, Madam Speaker, that working with FIFA as we try to expand our sports tourism, TTF is also doing major construction at this facility to have the home for football. So there are a number of backhoes, dump trucks, and so on, clearing areas, as members would have seen. And we don't want anybody getting injured, and the debate being a different discussion here today. But I take the point of member for Caroni Central. I will, the chairman of the sport company, we'll see how we could come up with a solution quickly, but I know they're working on fencing certain areas to ensure that we could get back to having the people utilizing the facility.
Member for Prince, point up here.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Supplemental to the Minister of Sport. Could the Minister state, based on this question, if other stadiums are utilized by constituencies to do the same exercising like the Atto Bolden Stadium?
I will not allow that as a supplemental question. Member for Couva South.
Madam Speaker, I take the opportunity to withdraw question number 196.
For Couva South, the question is withdrawn?
Yes.
But it's supposed 196 is supposed to be withdrawn in writing, so that you have the answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that it's not in accordance with the procedure. So I would ask you to ask the question.
Madam Speaker, could the Minister provide the reasons that Ms.
All right, the Minister of Health. Thank you, Minister of Health.
Question 196 to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The chairman of the Southwest Regional Health Authority has advised that Mrs. Gail Miller-Mead is the most senior general manager in the Southwest Regional Health Authority. She is the most senior, qualified, and competent executive manager and has acted on previous occasions in the position of Chief Executive Officer at the Southwest Regional Health Authority. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Oropouche East.
Could the minister indicate whether or not a new position of executive assistant to the chief executive officer has been established at the Southwest Regional Health Authority to assist this very experienced CEO?
Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, I will have to check on that and get back to the honourable member.
Members, we revert to question 191. Member for Oropouche West.
Speaker, question 191 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to draw the attention of this Honourable House to the fact that at this time, the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure is conducting an inquiry into the Trinidad and Tobago Inter-Island Ferry Service with specific focus on the procurement and maintenance of the ferries. I expect that this committee's finding will provide some answers to the question posed by the honourable member for Oropouche West. I thank you.
Member for Oropouche East.
It's a question 191, yes. Could I ask the minister, pursuant to this, if he's aware of any irrevocable letter of credit granted to Bridgman Service Group by the Ministry of Works or by the government of Trinidad and Tobago or First Citizens Bank?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, like any contractual obligations, letters of credit would have been established as to the first vessel that would have been operationalized. As for the second vessel, I'd have to get back to you as to the position with that because that vessel was cancelled.
Yes.
The Honourable Minister confirmed to us that the letter of credit came from the FCB and it is an irrevocable letter of credit that could only be void by Bridgman Services Group.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no information on that, but I will get that information back.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 197 to the Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs.
Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the opening ceremony, opening of the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, I'm told by the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago that the total catering cost was just under $100,000.
Member for Tabakeet.
Speaker to the Minister of Health.
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The National Insurance Property Development Company Limited, NIPDEC, indicated that the list of countries from which generic brands of pharmaceuticals are being imported include Argentina, Austria, Bangladesh, Brazil, Canada, China, Costa Rica, Cyprus, Germany, India, Slovenia, Switzerland, Thailand, United Kingdom, United States, and Uruguay.
Be willing to say who are the importers of these drugs from these different countries, these generic drugs?
Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, that was not part of the substantive question. I could get it for you. That is not a problem, but it should have been asked. The list of importers will range the whole list of domestic importers.
East.
The Honourable Minister
Stand the ocean flower.
asking a question to the Minister, but he's not paying attention.
Please
Could
proceed.
the Honourable Minister indicate whether the generic brands of pharmaceuticals, which you a few months ago indicated were not functional and not effective in treating chronic non-communicable diseases, whether they have been replaced or what is the status of these drugs in the context of patients' fears for the treatment and management of their NCDs?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At no time did I state that drugs to treat NCDs were not good. I limited my statements to two particular drugs to treat two conditions only. It is typical UNC folly to scare the population. At no time did I say that. At no time, and you keep repeating this in the public domain.
Minister. Please proceed.
So, at this year's drug procurement exercise, those two drugs, yes, have been taken off the formulary.
Irony East.
Could you indicate which are the two pharmaceutical drugs and what have replaced them? So education for the national population, which you will feel obliged to do.
One was metformin, it has been replaced, and the other one was, I think, a drug for high blood pressure, enalapril, that has been replaced. So so it's generics. They have been replaced by other generics, another metformin and another enalapril.
Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 202 to the Minister of National Security.
I believe 202 was deferred, so I'm calling you in respect to the other question, 223. Member for Oropouche East.
Yes. Question number 203 to the Attorney General.
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The state is willing to provide legal representation at reasonable costs and has in fact requested the projected cost of same from the former commissioners.
Member for Naparima.
Madam Speaker, question 204 to the Minister of Education.
Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, schools located in the constituency of Naparima were not included on the list of schools earmarked for repair and maintenance works during the July-August 2017 vacation period. A review of the major repair and the maintenance works to be undertaken at the early childhood care and education centers, primary and the secondary levels, did not identify critical issues in the constituency of Naparima, which would have hampered the reopening of schools on September the 4th, 2017. Thank you.
Member for Tabaquit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 206 to the Minister of National Security.
National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The information provided by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service indicates that as of June 30th, 2017, its fleet comprised 1,591 vehicles. 1,591 vehicles.
Member for Tabaquit.
Minister, of these 1,591 vehicles, how many of these vehicles are serviceable and operational?
Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, that is a completely different question. I don't have that information. I assume all.
Member for Caroni Central.
Can the Minister confirm whether these vehicles continue to be equipped with GIS equipment and communications capability?
Minister of National Security.
Yes.
GPS, sorry.
Member for Baratari San Juan.
To indicate whether these vehicles have any dashboard cameras on them.
Minister of National Security.
Some.
Member for Caroni East.
We can't tell you all
the
that.
vehicles that are utilized by national security for undercover purposes, 1,591.
Member, I would not allow that question.
For reason. Including the 10 that went by Anand.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance.
Member for Baratari San Juan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 17, I hereby seek leave to move the adjournment of this House for the purpose of raising the following definite matter of urgent public importance at today's sitting of the House, and that is the refusal of the Children Life Fund Authority to assist children who are eligible for the said assistance under Section 19 of the Children Life Fund Act, Chapter 2901. The matter is definite because the lives of children are at stake. There have been instances where the Children Life Fund Authority has rejected children who are in need of assistance and have satisfied all the requirements for eligibility, namely, A, a person is eligible for a grant under this act where he or she is a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and is ordinary resident in Trinidad and Tobago. B, is unmarried and under the age of 18 years at the time of the application. C, has been referred by a medical specialist in the particular field of treatment required. D, requires treatment that is unavailable at a local medical institution. E, has been diagnosed with life-threatening illnesses. And F, has medical expenses that exceed 25% of the income of this family. The matter is urgent because if the policy of the current board of the Children Life Fund Authority is not reviewed and rectified, many more children will not be able to access medical treatment due to the high cost, contrary to the intent and spirit of the Children Life Fund Act. The matter is of public importance because the current decisions of the Children Life Fund Authority
will put many other parents in the same predicament as those who have already been rejected.
Honorable members, I am not satisfied that this matter qualifies under this standing order. I advise that the member pursues this matter under Standing Order 16. Member for Naparima.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 17.1, I wish to seek leave to move the adjournment of the House for the purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent public importance, namely, the complete collapse of our national security apparatus and the open revolt of some communities against our protective services. The matter is definite as it pertains specifically to videos circulating on social media showing citizens in open combat with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. The matter is urgent because we have become a society in which no citizen is safe, not even those meant to protect and serve through the execution of their duties. The matter is of public importance because if our national security personnel are not trained or equipped to perform effectively, then no one in this country is safe.
Honorable members, I am not satisfied that this matter qualifies under Standing Order 17. I advise that the member pursues this matter under Standing Order 16.
Statements by ministers, personal explanations, introduction of bills, motions relating to the business or sittings of the House and moved by a minister, public business, government business, motions.
Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Be it resolved that the Senate amendments to the Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017, listed in Appendix 2, be now considered.
Honorable members, the question is that the Senate amendments to the Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017, listed in Appendix 1 to the order paper, be now considered. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
Clause 4. In proposed Section 4A, delete the chapeau and substitute the following. Where scrutiny is given for the security is given for the grant of bail, it may be in the form of B. In paragraph C, delete the word or. C. In paragraph D, delete the full stop and insert after the word property the words semicolon or. D. Insert after paragraph D the following paragraph. E. Such other forms of security or combinations thereof as the court sees fit. E. In subclause 4B, insert after the word court the words granting bail.
Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House agree with the Senate in the amendment of Clause 4 of the Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017. Madam Speaker, the tweaking, if I can use that expression, of the new subclause 4A, which is an amendment to Section 12 of the Parent Act, came about as a result of discussions in the Senate. In those discussions, the honorable members of the Senate, and I do mean all, opposition and also independent bench, felt that it was necessary to provide a little more latitude in respect of the forms of security, insofar as we were now seeking to broaden the concept of security as opposed to surety under the legislation. In those circumstances, the first amendment to subclause 4A1 is a recasting of the chapeau, simply to provide for a broader arrangement of words, and secondly, to add in substantially that any other form of security or combination thereof as the court sees fit. This allows the court latitude to grow the common law. It certainly allows for evolving forms of security that the court may consider from time to time appropriate to find its way into the judicial determination under the Bail Act as it stands, number 18 of 1994. This really does simply provide for the judicial officer to have the latitude of discretion, and that relates to the first part. The second part, where we seek to insert granting bail, that is where the court granting bail is now specified in the text of subclause 4B, is really to take care of the operationality of the court. And that specifically arises insofar as we have a defined term for the court. Court includes, as is defined in the Act, and that's the Bail Act, a judge, a magistrate, a justice of the peace, or a coroner. And in the cases of a specified court, it includes a judge or magistrate, or as the case may be, the justice having power to act in connection with the proceedings before the court. Accordingly, we've sought to specify the court granting bail to take care of the interpretation that will come out of the expression court. This provides for some working assistance to those who will exercise the law as it is to be practiced, and in those circumstances, I humbly beg to move that these amendments be adopted by this Honourable House.
Honourable members, the question is that this House agree with the Senate in the amendments to Clause 4 of the Bail Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017. Member for Caroni East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in relation to what the Attorney General just indicated on the amendment to Section 4B, when he indicated in the paragraph, but is unable to do so before the office of the court granting bail, which is a change, ceases to accept payment on the day. Madam Speaker, it seems that we need some more clarification on the issue of he or the person acting on his behalf may give such security to a prison officer designated by the Commissioner of Prisons for that purpose. That is a continuation of the part where the amendment is taking place. From experience, my own personal experience in 2002, when someone goes before the court and you apply for surety and someone is there to give you surety, first of all, there is a problem where the magistrate, who is an officer of the court, comes in late, whether deliberate or not. We question the abuse of power sometimes, and they may come like 3:30 in the afternoon, conduct the matter. The matter may go beyond the 4 o'clock deadline, where the justice, where the clerk of the peace is in the house, is supposed to be there to receive the certified check or the whatever surety, and cannot be found. And therefore, what happens in that situation? The black Maria pulls up after 4 o'clock, ready to take the person who is offering a surety, but unable to conclude their business with the clerk of the peace at the particular time because of the absence of that person, and therefore finds himself or herself having to be taken to prison, which is really an abuse of process because of the inability of the system to allow that person to present their surety. I saw where the Attorney General and the government decided that they will have prison officers in this part of the bill up to 6 p.m., Monday to Saturday. But we want to find out where these prison officers are going to be working from. Where can an accused who is ready with a surety can find solace and give to that prisoner, or at 4 o'clock, whether that
Member
person...
for Caroni East, I've allowed you some latitude, but remember, we're not debating the bill afresh. All right? What we have to consider is the particular amendment. Now, you referred to 4B, which is O, which is to delete the word O, so that if your contribution relates to some issue with the deletion of the word O, I will allow it. If not, I shall not.
That's not the area. I'm referring to 4B, which is just the Honorable Attorney General put in granting bail. That is an amendment in Clause 4B. Unable to do so before the office of the court granting
please,
bail.
And maybe I should give some clarification. The amendment to which the Attorney General referred is listed at Appendix B as 4B. That is paragraph C, delete the word or. So that I will only allow a contribution that is related to the amendment or any amendment in clause 4.
Speaking about?
You're talking on E.
E.
You're speaking with respect to 4DE. That's what you're talking about.
No,
because you had
I'm
said
speaking
B.
of the original bill, clause 4B. What is that? What?
Member for Caroni East. If I can just maybe direct you
4E. I'm speaking on the amendments, it's 4E.
All right, yes.
That's what I'm speaking about. Yeah? So there are two issues there. One is the ability of the court process to ensure that justice is given to an accused when he or she presents the surety by a particular time, and rather than to be penalized, to be taken to prison when the clerk of the peace cannot be found. That's number one. The second issue is you need to give the country an idea of who are the prison officers designated by the Commissioner of Police, where are these prison officers are to be found, and up to 6 p.m., where are they located? Are they going to be located in the same courts as the clerk of the peace? Where are they to be found? So we need some clarification on those two issues, Attorney General.
Member for Caroni.
These are simple amendments. There are two amendments here, Madam Speaker. And the amendments come from the Senate, and they are located in the bill as further amended in the Senate here. And basically, it expands the means by which bail is to be secured in Section 4 through the introduction of Clause E by adding such other forms of security or combinations thereof as the court sees fit. And then in the Second Amendment 5, it simply deals.
Central, we have not yet reached 5. The only amendment that was put to us is 4. So we are only dealing with 4 until that question is proposed.
It's very difficult to go beyond that if the debate is circumscribed simply to the Clause E, which we are discussing. But I would say there is a matter that needs to be raised and which the member who leads the business of the opposition on this side of the House raised with the leader of government business. And he wrote to the leader of government business to indicate, first of all, that the Attorney General had made certain commitments in the Senate.
Is what you're going to proceed on listed within the appendix of the amendments? You're about to proceed on something, and I just wish to get some confirmation that what you're dealing with is listed on Appendix 2, Clause 4, because that's all we have before us, and that's all that we could consider.
comes under 5.
Madam Speaker, be raised under perhaps 5 rather than 4.
When we reach the 5, then you will indicate that you wish to speak.
Madam Speaker, we simply note the amendment, therefore 4E, as has been brought forward to this House from the Senate, and we wait to continue the debate on item 5, clause 5.
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank honourable members for their reflections on clause 4. I regret that we're constrained by Standing Order 74.3 to do them individually, clause 4 and then clause 5, so we're certainly open to addressing each issue that the honourable members of the opposition may have. If I could reflect upon the submission of my learned colleague for Carney East, forgive me. Honourable, through you, Madam Speaker, the fact is that prisons officers are already designated by the Commissioner of Prisons as receivers of monies. So this is not new to the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. We are, by these amendments, jointly agreeing that we broaden the scope of access to bail to deal with the very circumstance of mischief that you so plainly pointed out. And that is where the court, for one reason or the other, does not conclude its business and actually results in an accused person being taken overnight to remand facilities or otherwise until the process of bail can be continued on another working day. God forbid if that's a Friday, of course, versus a Monday. As we all know, some of the pains that come out of the stories in respect of access of bail. So firstly, this amendment squarely deals with the mischief that the honourable member has put forward, Madam Speaker. It seeks to attenuate the difficulties that persons face. It allows for the access to the existing provisions of the law, which is officers designated at each and every institution of prisons so designated by law under the Prisons Act. It allows for receiving officers who are already sitting officers in these divisions at prisons, be they maximum security or remand facilities or otherwise, to simply receive the monies that would have been ordered by the court. And this is, remember, an amendment to treat with security and not surety. The honourable member referred, Madam Speaker, to the concept of surety. There is a bit of confusion in the 1994 legislation as it relates to surety and security. Surety is where one has a third party or one has one's own reputation and self to guarantee that the defendant before the court, the accused, will attend before court and face the court. So said under Section 5 of the Act, Section 6 of the Act, and in fact under Section 12(1) of the Act. In those circumstances, surety is to be distinguished from security. Security finds representation, and the only place where it finds representation is under Section 12 of the Act. Under Section 12 of the Act, security can be given in various forms, and as the debate would have told us, there's been a preponderance to the usage of security in the form of land. These new mechanisms allow for a broader scope and clarity for the magistracy as a suite of remedies available for the provision of security. The practice of the 1994 Act in reality has worked out that security, where it is given, and the Act speaks to it in Section 12, really is for what we call the flight risk persons. So Sections 12(3) to 6 speak to, and that's of the Parent Act, speak to security being given only where there is a flight risk. What has come to be the standard practice in our courts is that security is asked in any event, whether it is by way of surety or whether it is in respect of the strict confines of Section 12 of the Act. In any event, the provisions are not mandatory in that sense, and when one looks to the application of the law of bail, in particular Sections 5, Section 6, Section 7, and Section 12 of the Bail Act, we can find comfort that this certainly doesn't exclude anyone from operation, and this in fact takes us in the right direction. Yes, please.
Attorney General, and through you, Madam Speaker, could you help in the clarification of the issue? Let's say the prison officers are there up to 6 p.m. and the clerk of the peace in the magistrates' courts are there up to 4 p.m. If the clerk of the peace is not there by 4 p.m., the person then is taken down to prison. And therefore, they are already in prison, and the prison officer is the one now taking the, well, not surety, but the whatever funding or finance has to be given. How can you prevent that accused from having to go down to the prison for a prison officer to take that money or whatever up to 6 p.m.? And so how you manage the lacuna between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and with preventing the accused from having to go to prison, which really he is prepared to deal with by 4 p.m. Except all the other things that you have indicated.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Yes, please.
Which you can answer both. Which is to say, if somebody is taken to prison after 6 p.m., does that mean that the person has to wait till the next morning for the grant of bail, based on this information here?
I thank honourable members for the inquiries. Thank you for the latitude, Madam Speaker. In answer to both my learned colleagues, regrettably, there is a cut-off time of 6 o'clock. And if an accused or a prisoner is taken to the facility after 6 p.m., unfortunately, they will have to wait until 8 a.m. the next morning to be processed at the prison. What is advantageous in this situation is that the accused or the defendant or the person remanded doesn't have to wait the cycle of remand, 7 days or 21 days or 28 days, that there's an automatic access to the prison's officer at 8 a.m. the next morning. So I do accept that there is an inconvenience, and perhaps a serious one, for the positions for persons who arrive after 6 o'clock. Regrettably, the receiving officer's cut-off time for now, until amendments are made to the prison service itself in terms of how they regulate themselves for processes such as this, the cut-off time is at 6 o'clock. But as we engage in the reform process in the prisons, and in particular the subsidiary rules that govern them, we can look at this issue in a more fulsome way. Sure.
Would the minister concede that this leaves someone who is taken to prison open to abuse or provocation?
Sure, Madam Speaker.
Members, I have allowed some latitude, but remember, we're not debating the entire bill and the policy behind the bill, and so that has gone. I have allowed some questions for giving some clarification, but I think we're embarking on a full debate that is not just limited to the amendments that have come for us from the Senate, and therefore I will not allow this. Attorney General, there is a time, no time is prescribed for this. It is not 45 minutes. So I will allow you, there are no amendments being proposed. I will allow you 3 more minutes to wind up and beg to move, please.
I thank you for the time frame, Madam Speaker. I listen to my learned friends ask if it is humanly possible. Madam Speaker, I thank my learned colleagues for their inquiries. I wouldn't say that there is any abuse opportunity. There are multiple avenues to cover the concerns. But specifically, the court granting bail as proposed in the amendment to subclause 4B, which is pursuant to the proposal at E on the clause 4, certainly finds itself into a greater room for clarity for the position of which court one is dealing with, and certainly the amendment proposed in A, 4A, that is capital A, is one which gives for an expansion as combined with D on the circulated list of amendments. I do appreciate my learned colleagues' line of inquiry. I think that it's been addressed in the debate itself, and in any event, we can continue discussions. In those circumstances, Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Honourable members, the question is that this House agree with the Senate in the amendments to clause 4 of the Bail, Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
Clause 5A, by renumbering paragraphs A, B, and C as paragraphs B, C, and D, respectively. B, by inserting before paragraph B as renumbered the following paragraph. A, in subsection 1, by deleting the words section 12(4) and substituting the words section 12. C, in paragraph B, as renumbered, by deleting the word 7 and substituting the words 28.
Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House agree with the Senate in the amendments to Clause 5 of the Bill, Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017. Madam Speaker, in the list as circulated, we are contemplating 3 amendments to Clause 5. In the round, we are proposing that the substantive section of the law, that is the Bail Act itself, to be found at section 17 of the Act, we're proposing 2 things. One, we're proposing that the reference that is contained in the parent law at section 17 to section 12(1) of the Parent Act, section 12(4) of the Parent Act, sorry, instead be read to read section 12. And secondly, we're proposing an enlargement of time for the consideration of the operation of this law, moving from the prescribed 7 days to 28 days. If I could deal with the first part, which is the reference to section 12 itself, and I propose to explain that in dealing with the forfeiture of security, notice it's not surety, in dealing with the forfeiture of security as provided for in section 12 of the Act, the first thing that one needs to notice is that section 12(1) of the Parent Act is the only mandatory provision of the law. Section 12 of the Parent Act, in fact, in subsections 3 to 6, these are the circumstances where the parent law treats with what is referred to as flight risk. In subsections 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now including the subsections which this bill proposes to be added in 4A, etc., in dealing with these particular provisions, we are treating with the application of a judicial officer providing for other forms of security to be provided, and that is to be met with in the context of what is 12 in and of itself dealing with a flight risk. Now, the provision of the flight risk clause, where security finds its mention for the first time in the parent law, in the provision of those sections, one is obliged to traverse the general conditions for bail in the Parent Act. In particular, one must pass through Section 5 of the Act, Section 6 of the Act, Section 7 of the Act. And what we are proposing here is that any form of security which a judicial officer may give as a requirement for a condition of bail, be it cash, be it property, be it a bond from a licensed financial institution, whatever it may be, or any combination as we now propose, that form of security be one which can be subject to forfeit with the consent of the defendant in the circumstances set out in the bill. There is no mandatory statement of law that the provision of security can only be in very narrow circumstances. In fact, the practice in the High Court, in the magistracy, even at the Court of Appeal, with respect to the application or requirement to give security is not one which is uncommon. It is one which finds itself in any one of the circumstances broadly set out in Section 7 in particular, which says that it's wide open to the application of the law as practiced, and in particular when one traverses Section 6(2) of the Bail Act, which is the general conditions which a court must have regard to in considering the granting of bail. In these circumstances, I propose to address squarely some correspondence which emanated from the Honourable Member for Pointe-à-Pierre, the Leader of Opposition Business, which does not find itself in a strict amendment before the House, because that letter referred to a discussion in the Senate which concerned Section 7 of the Act. In any event, the discussion which I have just reflected upon in Section 12 of the Act, as we're proposing to be applied, takes care of the concern measured. The CPC himself and several members of the criminal bar, I did have discussions with both. The CPC confirmed his position in writing as well, and otherwise through the interactions that we've had, that there is a misunderstanding there's a misunderstanding in the context communicated by the Honourable Member for Pointe-a-Pierre by his letter to the Leader of Government Business, which issued last night. And I'm certainly open to exploring what other concerns the Honourable Members may have in relation to their understanding of this. But strictly speaking, it is not a matter which is before the House, because we're not proposing any amendment to Section 7 of the Parent Act. But out of courtesy to my learned colleagues, I felt compelled to address the issue squarely, as I have just done. Madam Speaker, when we look at the amendments to Section 5, Clause 5 of the bill, as set out in the list of amendments circulated, and now for adoption by this House, in summary, I will conclude by saying, number one, we are proposing that all forms of security be subject to forfeit. Security is a concept which arises in the strict confines of Section 12 of the Act, of the Parent Act. Secondly, we took on board recommendations of honourable senators opposite and at the independent bench that there should be an amplification of the time frame away from 7 days and in fact to 28 days. And in those circumstances, I beg to move.
Honourable members, the question is that this House agree with the Senate in the amendments to Clause 5 of the Bail, Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017. Member for Superior.
Madam Speaker, I speak to the proposed amendments which have been sent us from the Senate to Clause 5 of the Bail Access to Bail Bill. And I understand the constraints of the standing orders to stay within the wording of this, but it is important for us to understand, based on what AG has just told us, that what we are trying to do is to deal with issues relating to flight risk, coming out from, with respect to those who may abscond whilst on bail, and the reasoning that had been put forward previously, and our debate in this House, the concerns we had raised with respect to this bill, that we're in a period where crime is the number one issue in the country. And here we are seeking to open up the provisions of bail and to make it easier for access to bail. And that's what all these amendments are for. I will not go to the parent bill that these come from. So on the one hand, we are looking to amendments to ease up that process. On the other hand, we have been asked to consider elsewhere locking down bail with respect to crimes, given this very horrid situation. Now, our debate earlier, I'm saying I am not in a position to support the amendments being proposed here for basically three reasons. One being that we are not satisfied with the explanation being given by the Honourable Attorney General with respect to the Clause 12 amendment being proposed here. Sorry, Section 12 has been amended in Clause 5. And the fact that we cannot trigger the 12 unless 7 is triggered. The AG has shared a different view, but we do not share his view. The Section 7 has to be triggered. Section 7(1) and B must be satisfied. And therefore, in our view, the amendments will not further the aims and objects of the bill and therefore of the Act, and will not support them. And thirdly, Madam Speaker, whilst the letter, the Honourable Attorney General has said that the matter is not properly before the House, but in my respectful view, the discussion in the Senate was clearly on the Hansard at page 150, where our concerns had been expressed up there about the Clause 12 and the triggering and the symbiotic relationship between Section 12 and Section 7. So this will not further the aims and objects of the Act, these amendments, and therefore we are not in a position to support the same amendments.
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sure. Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate that my learned colleagues take the view which they are now expressing, and I wish to address this properly. The Senate amendment before us now concerns an amendment to Section 17 of the Act. It does not concern an amendment to Section 12 of the Act. We have, in fact, already agreed in the amendment which we passed in Section 4, Clause 4 of this bill, which honourable members supported a short while ago. It's in Clause 4 that we agreed to Section 12 of the Act being amended. So, unfortunately, I don't catch how the opposition can agree to Clause 4, as they just did, which is the clause which amends Section 12 of the Act, and now say in relation to Clause 5, which deals only with Section 17, that we are not in a position to support, as the opposition says now. That's a rather curious position. I think it's perhaps born out of a misunderstanding of the application of the law, and therefore I'm compelled to address the substantive understanding as I understand it to be as follows. The first thing is that the Parent Act, Chapter 460, at Section 5 of the Parent Act, it's Section 5(1) that says a court may grant bail to any person charged with any offence other than an offence listed in Part 1 of the first schedule. Section 6 of the Parent Act, Subclause 2, is the clause where the offence or one of the offences of which the defendant is accused in the proceedings is punishable with imprisonment, it shall be within the discretion of the court to deny bail to the defendant for a number of circumstances set out in the Act. Subclause 3 deals with the exercise of discretion under 2A, where the court is bound to consider certain things. When we get to Section 7 of the Act, Section 7 of the Act is very expressly clear in 7(1). 7(1) of the Act says, subject to subsection 3, where the defendant is granted bail, the conditions mentioned in 3 to 6 of Section 12 shall not be imposed unless it appears to the court that it is necessary to do so for certain circumstances. A, the purpose of preventing the occurrence of any of the events in Section 6, which is the broad range definition of matters which the court must consider. And B, to enable inquiries or a report.
Yeah, member for Oropuch East, I overrule you. It's in terms of a matter that has come up. He's now winding up. Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so 7(1) is expressly clear that the whole of Section 6 applies, which is the very broad range, and it is also to enable inquiries or a report, etc. Section 7, which the honourable members opposite now raise by way of reference in their letter written by the member for Pointe-a-Pierre to the Leader of Government Business last night, reflected upon a conversation which we had in the Senate, which was obiter dicta. It did not flow from the material before the Senate. But specifically, I'm able to say that when we look to the concerns as I understand them to be, the only condition of bail that is mandatory in Section 12 of the Act is in fact 12(1). A person granted bail in criminal proceedings shall surrender to custody. There's nothing else in Section 12 which is mandatory, only Section 12(1). Subsections 3, 4, 5, which deal with the grant of the flight risk security, which is where security is given, are obviously attended to. Because you would not get to security ever in a court of law unless the magistrate asks you to give security. And you don't get the question being put to you unless the magistrate is convinced that that question should be put to you. And therefore, the concept of security arises in the flight risk context only. Section 17, which says if you put up security, that security is liable to be forfeit in certain circumstances, follows from the judicial process where the magistrate or other judicial officer, High Court, Court of
Standing
Appeal,
order
says,
48-1, Madam Speaker.
David, come on.
Attorney General, what I would ask is this: if you could sort of just contain your contribution, and I would like when I am speaking and on my legs that members respect what the standing orders say, please. Yes, if you contain your contribution to precisely what is before us. I understand that some other discussion was raised. I think you have explained that. And therefore, if now you can just zero in on what is before us.
Thank you. Yes, Madam Speaker. It's unfortunate. I thank you for your guidance. Unfortunately, members ask a question and don't want the answer because it's a matter of law. And if there's a concern, then it needs to be answered. In any event, Madam Speaker, the forfeiture provision in Section 17, by which Clause 5 of this circulated list of amendments proposes an amendment, squarely deals with the provision of security within the ambit of Section 12 of the Act. Section 7 of the Act does not apply. It is not before the Senate. The opposition, respectfully, is approbating and reprobating. They are blowing hot and cold. Come here.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 53, I beg to move that the debate on motion 1 be adjourned and that we move on to debate on motion 2.
No, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I do not agree. We have had a very long vacation period, and we came out today to debate motion number 1. And we're trying to do the people's business, and I would like to take a vote on that, please.
Madam Speaker, we are very willing to allow for the vote to take place if the opposition is so minded. But as I said, we are asking for the adjournment of this debate on this motion. I will explain why. It is clear that the concerns that have been raised by the opposition need to be explained further. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, if I would be totally straightforward with the House, in addition to that, unexpectedly, one of our members is not here. He is ill. And yes, it is quite sad. I'm glad that you, Oropuch East, care enough.
Speaker.
Sorry, ma'am. And as a consequence of that, Madam Speaker, in circumstances where this was an agreed position in the Senate, by the opposition no less, we are quite surprised that those on the opposite side are now taking a different position. And Madam Speaker, I am quite willing for, if they want the vote to be put, we are willing to have the vote.
They want us to...
Sickness of the member for La
Madam Speaker.
I believe the response to the application was already given by the member for point, of pair. Okay? So that the question, I shall now put the question with respect to the debate on motion number 1 be now adjourned to a date to be fixed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? No.
Mrs. Regis?
Aye.
Mr. Imbert?
Yes, of course.
Mr. Alwari?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Dialsing?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Aye and aye.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Ms. Kojo?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia,
Aye.
Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Mrs. Webster Roy,
Aye.
Dr. Gatsby Dolly,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Francis,
Aye.
Mrs. Jennings Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Antwine,
Aye.
Mr. Leons,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
No.
Mrs. Prasad Bisasa,
No.
Mr. Charles,
No.
Dr. Rambacha,
No.
Mr. Karim,
No.
Dr. Tiwari,
No.
Dr. Munilal,
No.
Mrs. Nualu Hussain,
No.
Dr. Gopi Singh,
No.
Mrs. Gayadeen Gopi Singh,
No.
Mr. Indar Singh,
No.
Mr. Ramadar,
No.
Dr. Khan,
No.
Mr. Singh,
No.
Dr. Bodu,
No.
Mr. Parry,
No.
Ms. Ramdial,
No.
Madam Speaker, the result of the division is as follows: 17 members voted for, 17 members voted against.
Members, the result of the division is 17 for, 17 against. So therefore, as chair, I now exercise the casting vote, and I vote in favor.
That is not the status quo.
Please proceed. Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name.
That rule can't be considered contemptuous. I am sure you didn't mean that, and I'm prepared to ignore it, but not tolerate it. Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Be it resolved that the Senate amendments made to the Criminal Procedure, Plea Discussion and Plea Agreement Bill 2017, listed in Appendix 3, be now considered.
Honorable members, the question is that the Senate amendments to the Criminal Procedure, Plea Discussion and Plea Agreement Bill 2017, listed in Appendix 3 to the order paper, be now considered. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? No. The ayes have it.
Mrs. Robinson Regis,
Yes.
Mr. Imbert,
Yes.
Mr. Alwari,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Dial Singh,
Yes.
Mr. Hines,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Aye.
Ms. Kojo,
Aye.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mrs. Webster Roy,
Yes.
Dr. Gatsby Dolly,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Francis,
Yes.
Mrs. Jennings Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Antwine,
Yes.
Mr. Leons, Mr. Lee,
No.
Mrs. Prasad Bisasa,
No.
Mr. Charles,
No.
Dr. Rambacha,
No.
Mr. Karim,
No.
Dr. Tiwari,
No.
Dr. Munilal,
No.
Mrs. Nuala Hussain,
No.
Dr. Gopi Singh,
No, they want to give the 1%. Huh?
Mrs.
You only a
Guiding
man
Gopi
like
Singh,
you?
No.
Mr. Indar Singh,
No.
Mr. Ramadan,
No.
Dr. Khan,
No.
Mr. Singh,
No.
Dr. Bodo,
No.
Mr. Parry,
No.
Ms. Ramdial,
No.
Madam Speaker, the result of the division is as follows: 17 members voting for, 17 members voting against, no abstention.
Honorable members, the result of the division is 17 members for, 17 members against, no abstentions. As chair, I shall now exercise my casting vote, and I vote in favor of.
Clarification.
Madam Clerk, could you kindly proceed?
Clause 2, in the definition of A, improper inducement, delete and substitute the following. A, laying of a charge or causing a charge to be laid without reasonable cause. B, the coercion of an accused person or suspect to enter into a plea discussion or conclude a plea agreement, including a threat. 1, to lay a charge or cause a charge to be laid of the type described in paragraph A. 2, that any plea of not guilty entered into by the accused person will result upon the accused person's conviction in the prosecutor asking for a sentence more severe than the sentence that is usually imposed upon an accused person who is convicted of a similar offense. C, the misrepresentation of a material fact, either before a plea discussion is entered into or during the course of the discussion. D, an offer or promise, the fulfillment of which is not the function of the Director of Prosecutions, or E, an attempt to persuade the accused person or suspect to plead guilty notwithstanding the accused person's or suspect's denial of guilt. B, relative, delete the word other and substitute the word appropriate.
Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to Friday, the 15th day of September, 2017 at 1:30 p.m. Madam Speaker, at that time we will do motions 1 and 2, and we will follow the order paper.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I just want to interject. I listened to the Leader of Government Business, and I just want to state on the record that we came here to debate motion 1 and 2. And it is very disheartening that after 9 weeks of vacation,
It appears the motion for the adjournment is put without any debate. Honorable members, the question is that this House now do adjourn to Friday, the 15th day of September, 2017 at 1:30 p.m. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? No. Do we take a division on that?
Mrs. Robinson Regis.
Aye.
Members, could you take a vote in silence, please?
Mad people.
Mr. Imbert,
Yes.
Mr. Alwari,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Dial Singh,
Yes.
Mr. Hines, Mr. Hines,
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yellow card.
Aye.
Ms. Kojo? Mr. Garcia? Mr. Garcia?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Webster Roy?
Yes.
Dr. Gatsby Dolly?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Francis?
Yes.
Mrs. Jennings Smith?
Members, we are in the process of conducting a vote. I would again ask you all to please allow the vote to be taken in silence.
Mr. Antwine? Mr. Leons?
Yes.
Mr. Lee? No. Mrs. Prasad Bisasa? Mr. Charles?
No.
Dr. Rambachan?
No.
Mr. Karim?
No.
Dr. Tiwari?
No.
Dr. Munilal?
No.
Mrs. Nuala Hussain?
No.
Dr. Gopi Singh?
No.
Mrs. Gayadeen Gopi Singh?
No.
Mr. Indar Singh?
No.
Mr. Ramadan?
No.
Dr. Khan?
No.
Mr. Singh?
No.
Dr. Bodo?
No.
Mr. Parry?
No.
Ms. Ramdial?
No.
Ms. Kojo?
Aye.
Madam Speaker, the result of the division is as follows: 17 members voted for, 17 members voted against, there were no abstentions.
Honorable members, the result of the division is 17 members for, 17 members against, no abstentions. In the circumstances, the chair uses the casting vote. I vote in favor. This House now stands adjourned to Friday, the 15th of September, 2017 at 1:30 p.m.